Good morning and welcome to our community affairs program that we call 30 Minutes. Today, our program will include 1st District State Representative Stephen Rudy and State Senator Jason Howell of Western Kentucky. Representative Rudy and Senator Howell took part in a Hickman Chamber of Commerce event this week. We hope you enjoy today's program.
With a 54.6% vote, Stephen defeated longtime Democratic incumbent Charles Jevedon. He became the first Republican in history to be elected to this seat in Western Kentucky. He was chosen in 2021 by his colleagues in the House Majority Caucus to serve as the House Majority Floor Leader, which is a key role in determining legislation considered by the House. He also serves as a member on the Enrollment Committee on Committees, Rules, and Banking and Insurance Committees. He's also a member of the Legislative Research Commission. In 2018, he authored the state budget, which for the first time in almost 2 decades fully funded public pensions and also increased pupil education spending to record levels. In 2025, he successfully sponsored legislation allowing Kentuckians to obtain their driver's permit at the age of 15, giving young drivers additional time behind the wheel to build experience and develop safe driving habits. Stephen also works for his family's agribusiness, Rudy's Farm Center, which serves Western Kentucky. He is a Ballard Memorial High School graduate, Murray State University graduate. He's also the father of Maddie, who attends McCracken County High School. We're glad to have him back in Hickman, and we're very glad of the work he's done. Our 1st District State Representative, Mr. Stephen Rudy.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you so much. It's been a long haul, and we talked about, in the bio, we talked about how in 2004 I was the first Republican elected. Whatever. This is the oddity, okay? I am now the second longest serving member of the House of Representatives in Kentucky. So it's been 22 years. Seems like yesterday, but it flew by. But I'm only the third to hold the 1st House District State Representative seat in my lifetime. Butch Burnett was it when I was born. He got elected Ag Commissioner. Charlie Jevedon came in when I was 9, and then I beat Charlie when I was 26. They both served like 17 years each, and now I've even passed and I thought they were there forever, and now I've been there longer than them, and it has really flown by. I want to announce today that I'm working on a book, and it's important that I announce this here because we already have the title. We don't have the content yet, but the title is this: Hickman Ain't in Hickman County. And it's just other oddities about the things that I have experienced since I have been in Frankfort. They say oftentimes in Frankfort they describe our great Commonwealth as it affects everybody from Paducah to Pikeville. And I'm like, well, I guess 20,000 of my best friends aren't included in that. Go tell them that actually Kentucky's beyond Paducah, and that just blows their mind. But yeah, it's Charles asked us to come down here. You got a great senator, Fulton County native, and a dear friend who really is a major asset for our region. He does a great job representing us in the state Senate, and I'm glad to be able to get here where we can be together and do this. I think this is the second one. It's my 4th Chamber of Commerce since we've done the session because of the districts and how they overlap. I got a couple counties that I don't share with Jason. Had to do those with Danny Carroll. These are more exciting to do with you. But it is really a great. He's a champion for our region, and I appreciate his hard work. Give you a brief update on what we did this session. I mean, Jason worked on some exciting legislation, and I'm sure he's going to brag about all the work that he's doing in beef tallow cosmetics. where now you can make your own beef tallow cosmetics and sell them from your home. You used to couldn't do that. I mean, we tackled some tough stuff this session. You know, we
handed that bill off.
we had an oddity of like giving some people some freedoms and then taking some other freedoms that they already had away from them. Now 18, 19, and 20-year-olds will be able to conceal carry if they go through training and all the permitting process, not constitutional carry, not the Wild Wild West, but if they go through the training, and, you know, we passed that. But before we gave them those freedoms, we took away the freedoms for them to bet on sports. Now we raised that to 21 like all the other states. And we're like, what messages are we sending to these 18, 19, 20-year-olds? I don't know. We just do what we do. We sometimes handle things in a silo. And I found it funny to me that both those bills were working their way through the General Assembly. So as my role as majority leader, I get to kind of decide when we vote on things. So I made sure we voted on those back to back just to make everybody be like, what are we doing now? But anyway, personally, I worked on a legislation that deals with modernizing our stalking laws in Kentucky, antiquated really, including internet stalking and social media stalking as well, where we could address those things. And I was excited to work with domestic violence groups across the state to get that across the line. One of the most exciting bills that I think we passed is basically just doing the right thing. And it's called House Bill 5, and it deals with, look, in Kentucky we got a lot of people incarcerated. And we also have a workforce shortage. And this is marrying the two problems. And working with KCTCS, community college systems, we're now going to be able to go into prisons and even establish its own to where we can get those people incarcerated on a career path, and when they get out, then hopefully make them productive citizens and get them a job. It's the right thing to do. It's going to take employers taking a risk of hiring somebody that has that past, but I hope that the employers across this state will be willing to step up and do that. It's really one of the things I'm excited about. We passed a budget. That was the main thing that we focused on, the 2-year biennial budget. And look, we had a theme with this budget. Charles talked about 2017 or 2018 budget. I mean, we were broke. The state was literally, our budget reserve trust fund, which is the state savings account. I became budget chair. They handed me the checkbook and said, fully fund pensions. Here's $13 billion. Do with it whatever you want. By the way, $12.75 billion of it's already spent, and you need 14 to do the job right. What are we going to do? So what did I said, well, obviously the first thing we're going to do is cut taxes. It actually worked, though. It actually worked. We started cutting taxes. We know that if people have the money, rather than the government having the money, they're going to spend that money, and it's going to increase the coffers. We are budgeting to hit 0% income tax as soon as possible, but we're doing it smartly to ratchet it down. We went from 6% income tax to 5% first day, and now we're at 3.5%. Hopefully after the close out of the books, we're going to be able to go down to 3.25% or 3% in January of next year. We're working our way to 0 so we can compete with our neighbors to the south. Because you get out of college, you get started around your career, you want to go locate to a new place, you're going to look. You're going to go somewhere that's going to keep 3% of your income, or are you going to go someplace that has keeps 0% of your income? I know what you're going to pick. It's just the nature of it. You might not feel that 0.5% and 0.25% reduction on your check, but it's about getting people to locate to Kentucky. But our budget, as we have gone and working with Jason and the Senate, we have focused on paying down debt, investing where we can and saving, just like you do in your households when you have money. Extra money. You pay down debt, you invest in things you got to have, and you save. We've been able to do that in the last 2 budget cycles. And when I say save, now, when I became budget chair, the Budget Reserve Trust Fund, the savings account was negative. I don't even know how that works. That means, I guess we were short of making a payment. Now we have the healthiest one in the nation as a percentage of budget. So when we have a tornado that comes through, we don't have to rob Peter to pay Paul. We can write a check to cover the basic needs. The rainy day fund is what we call it. But we also invested, and we made record investments in one-time expenditures. We didn't create a bunch of new programs. And this year, we were able to, one of the things that I'm excited about is investing in our infrastructure, particularly our river ports. Hickman River Port's going to be eligible for some of this money. We didn't give them a direct appropriation, but they'll be able to apply $30 million over the next 2 years going to the 10 public river ports in the state. Surely, Greg, you can get some of that $30 million.
I absolutely will.
All right. And then, you know, and the other thing is pay down debt. We continue to pour millions, and at this point it's now been billions of dollars into unfunded liability for the retirement systems that were just neglected for years. It was sad what was going on. We paid what was statutorily required, but we were not putting in what was actuarially required. We are now on the path. We're still a long way to digging out of that hole, but we're paying down as much debt as we can in every budget so far. But folks, I'm excited about the future. Mark hit about all these wonderful announcements. This is good. It is a good time to live in Fulton County. It is a good time to live in Hickman. But it's a good time to live in our region. And I want to stress that as enough. You guys have heard from Paducah to Pikeville. We're left out. We know who else is left out? Hickman County. They don't know that Hickman ain't in Hickman County. Carlisle County's left out. Ballard County's left out. Graves County's left out of that. We're all in this together. I promise you, as much as we hate them in basketball games, we got to get behind them and work with the other counties, because we are, like Madrid Bend, on an island down here. They think we're all the same. So we might as well work together, and I'm excited about the work that's going on in the school systems and what Diane Owen has done with that foundation of let's get these kids together and build toward the future, because we're resilient down here. Don't expect the government to come and help. We're just going to have to do it ourselves. But I am excited. I think it's the best times, that our better days lie ahead. And folks, I am honored to have gotten to serve and represent you for the last 22 years. I appreciate your prayers. Many of you know I've had a very, very rough 2026. But I thank you so much. My daughter, Maddie, I mean, I'm going to go back and hit on that. She's the apple of my eye. She's had a tough year with me. She lost her mother. She lost her grandfather 3 weeks later. It's just been awful. But the only thing she ever asked me for in her whole life, at now 16, was to make it where 15-year-olds could get their permit like her cousins in Tennessee. And you know, we did it. And a lot of people say, oh, they're too young. They're too young. But I want to promise you, it's okay, and I was stressed to include that in the bio, because when she turned 16 and she got her driver's license, that instructor looked at me and he said, "You're crazy. I thought you were crazy, but it was the best thing you ever did." And he's exactly right, because you can't tell the difference in the maturity in a 16-year-old and a 16-and-a-half-year-old. But you can tell the difference in a year's worth of training versus 6 months. All those permit drivers now get to experience all 4 seasons of driving before they get behind the wheel and out by themselves. And if you're a parent and you don't want your kid, it's not mandated that you have to. So if you want them to wait, that's okay too. God bless you all. I look forward to hearing from my dear friend Jason Howell. If you have any needs, don't hesitate to call. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it very much. Set that down here. Okay, our own Fulton County, and I guess, are you the only, you and Jeff Green, the only two Fulton Countyans ever to, in modern history to be state senators? Yeah, that's very neat. Born and raised in Fulton County, Jason and his family live in Murray, where he has practiced law since 2004. Prior to relocating back to Western Kentucky, he practiced in Chattanooga for the better part of 7 years. He has been licensed to practice in Kentucky and Tennessee for over 25 years. Jason was elected in 2020 as the state senator for District 1. He quickly established himself as an effective lawmaker. He was appointed to and serves as chair of the Senate Agriculture Committee, co-chairs the Tobacco Settlement Committee. He is the vice chair of the License and Occupation Standing Committee, a member of the Senate Committees on Banking and Insurance, Legislative Oversight and Investigations, and Economic Development, along with Tourism and Labor. Senator Howell attended the University of South in Sewanee, Tennessee, where he earned a BA and later earned his Juris Doctorate from the University of Kentucky School of Law. He's a member of the Kentucky Bar Association and Callaway County Bar Association. He and his wife, Renee, have 3 children, Mary Browder, Madeline, and Owen. We welcome you, our own Fulton Countyan, Senator Jason Howell.
Thanks, Choate. I appreciate that. Little thing on Choate. Our comms lady is ex-military and very by the book. And we were setting this up, and I just said, this is what Choate wants to do and everything. And she goes, well, what's his first name? And for the life of me, I didn't even know he had a first name. but he did. Thanks to be here. This is about as friendly a crowd as I'm ever going to get. Appreciate everybody's, yeah, at least when y'all throw rotten tomatoes at me for what I do. I know it's done out of love. I want to point out that my mom and dad are here with my oldest, Mary Browder, who's decided to grace us for a few months as she tries to become a resident of Spain, apparently. But I do appreciate you being here. Otherwise, my mom would not come to any political event unless her granddaughter's with them, too. So that's the only way to get out there. Before we get started on the session and everything, I want to talk about a couple of other things. Is one, to follow up on something that Choate was talking about when Steve Rudy was elected. I've got my own background on that. So I was living in Chattanooga. Dad called me one day and said, well, I'm going to go to, Joe Forrest wants me to meet this kid that's running against Charlie Jevin. And so I'm going to go meet him. I said, well, call me back when you get home and see what you think. So phone rang later, and we talked a little bit. I go, well, what'd you think? He goes, man, that's a good boy. But he don't stand a snowball's chance in hell of beating Charlie Jevin. One of the first times I was glad it wasn't about me, that I was glad Dad was wrong about something. So all kidding aside, there are 138 members of the Kentucky legislature, 100 in the House and 38 in the Senate. We all have one vote, popular vote passes things. But some of us are just a shade more equal than the others. And Steve and Rudy, I hate to do this when you're in the room too. I just can't tell. I do this without you here, and it's a lot easier than having to brag on you when you're in the room. But he is a true gift for us for so many reasons. One, because he knows how to run things, and he knows how things work. And he truly cares about our area. The stuff he's talking about isn't just stuff that he says because he's here and we're politicians and we're supposed to say what you want to hear. He truly does want what's best for the river counties. There's a difference in being one of us and not being one of us. And that Ballard County dirt's about as sweet as ours, and it changes the way you look at things, the lens that you filter things through, especially when it comes to our area, especially when you've written a budget and you run the legislation in the house, in the chamber where the budget originates. It makes it really good. We punch above our weight class in the river counties because of that man right there. And that's something important to know when somebody wants to run against him because they're mad about something or he's been there too long. It's one of the greatest arguments against term limits I've ever seen, because it takes a while to get in here and figure out how things work. And that man right there, I can't stress enough how much we outpunch our weight class because of him, the things he does for us in the legislature and throughout the state. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about before we talk about the session. I love what Ellen was talking about the career readiness. We are in the process of sending 3 of our kids through the educational system, and it's not cheap. Y'all know that, but it's important to prepare ourselves for the future, and the future has changed. When we were in high school, I've got classmates and friends in here, and y'all correct me where I'm wrong. We were almost viewed as a failure if we didn't go to college. That's the way that was environment. That was the way it was raised, and it was right in a lot of ways and wrong in some way. But that was the perception of what we did. And now our generation that was raised that way are finally being smart enough to realize that you don't have to go to college to make a really good living. The purpose of education, the purpose of sending our kids and supporting our kids is so we don't have to support them for the rest of our lives, so that they can get out and support themselves and be good, healthy members of our communities and support our grandkids that we want them to have and all that stuff. We don't have to do that by sending them to college, but we do have to have them ready to go to work. Our workforce needs are changing daily, and we have to adjust to meet those changing demands. And I think some of the stuff that we've been doing in Fulton County for years with our school system has not only stayed up with that curve, but been ahead of the curve a little bit. Our welding program, we have people come in for licensing occupations, some of this stuff, and the people that are in this community and trying to place high-end welders, they talk about, take that if you need it, they talk about how good our welding program is, and we've been doing this a long time before anybody else. So I thank you so much for focusing on all things, because some people need to go to college, but not everybody has to make a lot of money. I've got a cousin, John Williamson, I'm going to call him out, he doesn't care, I grew up with him. You could take our test scores and throw them in a basket and pick one. After 3 shots, he's still, at 55 years old, he's still a first semester freshman at Western. But he's had 2 different careers where he's out-earned me, and that's really important. One of the reasons I wanted to run for the legislature is I wanted to make rural Kentucky more relevant, and especially Western Kentucky more relevant. We have great resources, but they're dwindling. And if we put a floor under some of this, then it's something that we can reverse the trend line on. If you look around in this room, if I look around this room, a lot of my peers are here, my classmates and people that I overlapped in school with. And we have city managers. We have probably the best ag lender in Western Kentucky. We have a sheriff. I just want to say for a minute that life comes in full circle sometimes. And all the years, especially the older people in this room, all the years that we spent praying for Chad Parker, and then to have Chad come pray for us, there's just something right about that, you know? Mikey, I ain't even going to talk about you. But part of that is because we have good quality and depth in our communities. The most important part about what I'm talking about is all these people are still in this room because they live here, they work here, they've invested in our community. And that's something that's really important that we've got to keep doing. And we've got to stop that flight from rural to urban. I think our greatest divide anymore isn't liberal, conservative, or anything else. It's rural urban. And that's something that we see throughout the state. And we put a backstop on this in growth. The figures that Mark was talking about on investment in this community are incredible. Jackson Purchase, I can't thank y'all enough for not just locating here, but for blowing up like you do. You get in different circles and you hear people talk about you. I was in a meeting in West Virginia, and there was a lot of people in the bourbon industry in West Virginia. And you know how you're in there and you talk about where you're from and all this other stuff. And when I told them, they go, Jackson Purchase Distillery makes the best juice in the business right now. And I was like, all right, because we think it's good, but we're kind of biased, you know. That's like somebody bragging on your kid, you know. But when somebody else, I think make your kids great, but when other people brag on it, it's really nice. So thank y'all. Thank you for investment in community, your continued investment in community. And thank you for being really good at it, too. It's nice to have some bragging rights. Everybody talks about Bardstown, that area in the bourbon industry, but if we're making the best use in the business, that makes us incredibly more relevant, too. Thank you. A couple of things that went on in this session. I love doing these things with Rudy because he's so polished and smooth. He just blows right through all the highlights of the session. I want to talk about this session from an agriculture perspective and some of the things I'm trying to do in the interim in the future too. I've been ag chair for 4 years now, and I'm agri chair because I have the closest tie to production agriculture in the Senate of any of the 38 members. And y'all know what I do for a living. You know my background. You know that tie is tenuous right now. Okay? And I still have the best connection to production agriculture. And let me tell you, that's a problem. Because people don't understand what we do. They don't understand what we need, and they don't understand what the issues we face. One of the things I'm trying to do in the interim is to kind of connect agriculture to people that don't understand agriculture without talking about what we produce. I'm trying to talk about it from an agribusiness standpoint. It's like teaching somebody Chinese arithmetic on some of the things. And we saw this come out in a couple of bills that we passed this session that I sponsored. I was fortunate enough to sponsor Senate Bill 5. The first 10 bills in each chamber are called priority legislation, and I was fortunate enough to sponsor one again this year. Senate Bill 5 is a bill that's pretty simple on its face. I've been here 6 years. I'd like to go back and do this again if y'all in the rest of the district agree with me. I don't know how long I'll do it, but if I did this for 20 more years, Senate Bill 5 might be the most important thing from a scope standpoint that I've ever been involved with. And to say that, and the bill is half a page long. So it isn't a lot of effort to draft, but it opens the door to something that I think could be pretty unique. It's hard for us to think about this in Fulton County this way because of the way we do agriculture, but it's different across the state. This bill just tweaked the procurement code that we have to allow forward contracting for fruit and vegetable producers to contract with schools to put fruits and vegetables into the schools. Everybody knows we need to eat healthier. I'm Exhibit A on that. I'll be the first to admit. And we want our kids to be better and our kids to do better and our kids to be healthier. So it's just natural to marry these two together. But the way the procurement code worked, it made it impossible for somebody to figure out how much the market they were going to have for their product. We're a farming community. We understand forward contracting and all of that. It made it almost impossible to do this to any scale. So one of the things, and I know Stephen's done this for years, sometimes the best thing we can do in government is just get out of the way. And this half-page bill allowed the state regulations to get out of the way and let market forces go. I know Mike Major's sitting over there. You're not going to go and get an operating line from Chuck if you can't tell if anybody's going to be able to buy your product when you produce it. That's all this bill did. It was real simple. Everybody is talking about, oh, this is great. We can feed school children this fresh, healthy food, and yes, that is important. But I was looking at it from an economic driver for the state. We got great grain ground. Our corn ground here is better than most of the state. But there are places where we're growing corn that we need to be growing something else. And to take it to highest and best use in our communities, be able to have more and more people. We have producer consolidation in Fulton County. We could have producer expansion in Hart County and some of those other counties that are more tobacco driven, more cattle driven. So it's something that I think we can really launch on, because here's what this does in rural communities. It allows more people to stay home in production agriculture, so we grow our producer base. But those people stay in their communities, just like Chuck and Ellen, be able to invest in their communities and broaden our base. Their kids stay in our school systems. Everybody benefits from this. Plus, we have some additional job creation because these products have to be processed, they have to be canned, all the stuff that goes with that. So we can build up some non-producer base with a new producer base market in areas that really don't lend themselves to production agriculture. The way we grow up down here, it took me about a year to wrap my arms around somebody that could support their family farming on 40 acres. No mule, just 40 acres. But that's the way this works with some of these crops. And as we build out that market, that's something we can really consolidate for. Kentucky is uniquely positioned. We're, a 6-hour drive from 80% of the population or some crazy statistic like that. So it's really important we can build a new market, a new environment in Kentucky. Another issue that came up with ag was Senate Bill 199. It's called the Roundup Bill. Those of you who know me, I can get out there on a limb sometime, but I'm really not into controversial issues in the legislature. I kind of just deal more with business issues and stuff like that. There's one member of the crowd right now that's giving a really weird face on this. I don't know who that is, but I'm watching you. But this bill I thought was really important for production agriculture. These plaintiffs' firms sue the maker of Roundup, the only domestic maker of Roundup. They won't go against the one made overseas in China, because they failed to warn that Roundup may cause cancer. Now, there's this one study out there that says this. So they do a state law cause of action saying that you didn't warn, so you're liable. And that works really well in states like California and other things, but it could come here too. The catch is the Environmental Protection Agency controls everything on the labeling. And for over 40 years, they have determined that glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, doesn't cause cancer. And if you put something on the label that they don't approve, you can't sell your product. So it's like farmers are caught between mom and daddy fighting. The EPA that says you can't do it, and the trial lawyers that are suing and say you have to. And that puts Roundup in danger. Because if you get hit with billions and billions of lawsuits, what do? You quit and you go somewhere else. And nobody wants to go back to plowing beans around here or chopping them, either one. It's really important to do this. The education that we had to do with our members to get them to understand what this was crazy. I did learn a lot, though. I learned there are an inordinate number of Instagram PhDs out there that are an expert in everything. Now, I don't think they have a high school education, but they're an expert in these issues. And this really exposed to me how little our peers understand about production agriculture. We were able to get it through, but the noise from the liberals who don't like any of this chemical stuff, and the trial lawyers, and the Maha right-wing people, it was a really difficult sledding. We managed to get it passed, and I'm glad we did, but it exposed how we need to do a better job understanding what agriculture really is. One of the things that we're starting to work on, we talk about production agriculture being a $15 billion industry or something like that for Kentucky. I think that number is grossly understated when you look at the secondary and tertiary benefits of production agriculture. So that's one of the things that we're trying to flesh out. I had a really good session. I passed a lot of good bills. Nobody wants to hear about them. One in the crowd was 120 that allowed us to register car titles online. So when that all goes to where Naomi will be sure to call me and tell me where we screwed everything up.
It's currently not working properly today. So.
Look, it's the Department of Transportation. It's not supposed to work properly.
No, it's the bugs. I know.
So those are the things that I wanted to touch on. A couple of things that you'll see coming out. There's a lot of issues about reducing the budget by 4%, and the governor's going in and trying to play politics because he thinks he's going to be our next president. But he's never been shy about hurting people for his own political gain, and we're seeing a lot of that right now. he's trying to make issues so he can run for president. This will all shake out in another 18 months when we can elect somebody decent in that position. But we got to weather this storm. But one of the things we are hedging against is the big, beautiful bill created, what, an $800 million hole in our Medicaid budget in 2028? So that's one of the things we're hedging against. And something that Leader Rudy talked about earlier is we have put ourselves back on sound financial footing in the state. But that comes with a price. We have to hedge for this potential liability out there and figure out what to do with it. There's a lot of things that we could be doing that we're not doing. We're chucking an extra $500 million in the retirement system to try to, over and above what we need to put in, to try to pick that up. We can do a lot of fun things with $500 million. That's real money. But it's not the responsible way to do that. We may not always have the extra money lying around. While we do, it's like in your businesses, when you have extra money, the successful businesses go and pay down debt. They don't buy new pickup trucks. And for years, we had legislatures that wanted to buy new pickup trucks instead of pay down their operating loan with Chuck. And that's unfortunately part of the problem we're in. It's worse than
or even worse, not just buy a pickup truck, make a down payment on a pickup truck.
Even better, make a down payment on a pickup truck. Quick story on just how bad this system was and how important it is to elect good people in the legislature. I took a gap year before anybody called it that in 1994 and worked the 94 legislative session. I had a friend in Frankfort that was from there. So we organized on Monday nights at a print shop that one of them owned for a little fellowship and maybe a card game. And one of the guys that played worked in the pension system for the state as an investment guy. And he was talking about how his boss took him in a meeting with the president of the Senate and the budget chair that day. And the whole purpose of the meeting is for his boss, who ran the pension system, to understand that their 2-year projection on return on investment needed to be 6.8%, because that's what they had arranged their budget for, and that's what the investment projection needed to be. Now, that's great, but this guy said that the best that any of the projections hoped for was like just under 5%. So they structurally, purposefully underfunded the pension system by over a percentage point because they wanted to make a down payment on a new pickup truck. Now that adds up over time. We've seen people in businesses around here that have done that, and they hadn't lasted a long time. And we weren't going to last forever either if we didn't change the course. It took a lot of courage to do what Stephen and a bunch of people did a few years ago and reverse that trend, but we're really starting to see the benefits of it now.
And that concludes this week's 30 Minutes program. We hope you enjoyed today's show. And, of course, we invite you to tune in again next week at this same time as we bring you topics and information of importance to our community. Until we meet again next week, I'm Charles Choate.
You've been listening to 30 Minutes, a community affairs program on Thunderbolt Radio. You can listen to this broadcast and others anytime by visiting thunderboltradio.com and following the Thunderbolt Radio and Digital YouTube page. Thanks for listening.